stopped work sick today, so I spent all day kind of laying low. So doing the best
Oh
I can.
no. How are you feeling?
Yeah, just picked up something. Better
Okay. All
now.
right.
Better now. I didn't do
Well,
anything really all day, so that helps.
yeah, that does help. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. This is the uh, getting sick's the worst. So, um, well, for those of you who are watching and are going, who the hell are these two people, and why are they talking about being sick? Um, I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm
So
the
how are you?
founder of Running Wild and RIZE. I'm here with Peter, who's one of our amazing acquisition editors. And we're just here to talk to you guys about whatever the heck you want to talk to us about. Ask us whatever you want. Um, so me, I'm okay. I've been spending the week just working on uh getting novels edited and novellas edited and getting all that stuff out to the different authors. So, and then trying to get some other like campaigny type stuff done. And now we're joined by Amy. So, hey, Amy, how you
Hi,
doing?
I'm good. Doing really good.
Yeah, what have you been up to? We haven't seen you in a little while. What's
I
new?
know. So my kids are in the middle of soccer, so it's crazy. We're everywhere right now. And I'm in the middle of, editing a bunch of books, working on some of my own projects. So yeah, it's just been a busy but a very nice spring to kind of get stuff done and I don't know, just spend some time with, the people that I like the most. So yeah, it's been
That,
pretty good.
that's awesome. Congratulations. That sounds like
Yeah.
a good time. So,
Hmm.
um, we actually also yesterday, I think it was yesterday, everything's just starting to blur together. We got an amazing review for Lachi's like science fiction fantasy book, Death Tango. So
Nice.
yeah, which is
So,
really exciting. So we're trying to figure out the best way to kind of get the word out on that one. And
hmm.
her book officially comes out, I believe it's in October. So, we have a little bit of time, but still it's nice to, excuse me, to start getting that, publicity out there.
Hmm.
And we actually just started, well, we didn't just start, like 2 weeks ago. We started a Kickstarter campaign because there are all these great ways that we could be promoting our books, but they all cost money, bottom line. So we pulled together like different tiers that, depending on if you're a reader or a writer, you may find it advantageous. Um, so in like the top tier is we'll actually review and give feedback on your novel. And so I figured a lot of like aspiring authors or even authors who've been around for a little bit, may find that advantageous.
Hmm.
Um, and then like the classics where, we name stories after characters after you.
That one's really fun. I like that one.
Yeah, but look out, we may just kill them off.
We might. Yeah.
Like heck, why not? Just because they're there doesn't mean they're going to be there for long.
Yeah.
And then we also added in one where you like if you give us a concept, we'll write it for you.
Yeah,
So
that one's
kind of like a ghost writing thing. So that seemed like a lot of fun. And then while we were like pulling all that together, I was talking to some folks about like, okay, so how can we promote the follow up to Cure? Because
cool.
we're in the middle of editing that now, and fingers crossed it'll come out like October of next year. And I kept getting feedback that people really like that world of
Mm-hmm.
Cure. So I was like, well, we could always just do an anthology that's themed in that world.
That's cool.
And yeah, I was surprised the number of people who were like, yeah, I'm in for that one. So now, so I opened that call up on Submittable. Actually, let me see if I can find the thing. Um, And I figured, we needed to open the call now so folks would know it's there. And then that way, they would know to actually write something. So yeah, so that should be a lot of fun. Hey, Ben, how are you doing, young man?
Good evening. I'm doing well. How are you all?
Pretty good. What have you been up to?
Just the same old thing. Editing and reading and thinking about writing.
And I have a sneaking suspicion that of the four of us, you're the one who's actually been doing some writing since you get up at 2:30 in the morning.
I write a lot of poems, and one or two of them are pretty good.
Well, hey, that counts, man.
That does count. I call that victory.
Absolutely. I've been sitting here trying to figure out, okay, like I finished the second round of revisions to a novel, and I finished all but I think 3 novellas. But now, like finished. But what's left on my plate? So I've been going through like my email and through, all of our different catalogs to figure that out. So I'm slowly getting back on top of my backlog of stuff to do. Sometimes it just takes a little while. So,
Yes.
but it's all good. It's all good. For anybody who is interested, I just put in the chat the link to the Cure short story anthology. So if you're interested in it, definitely check it out. I think it really is going to be a really super fun anthology, because a few people who reached out to me about it and told me their ideas for stories, I was like, wow, that's really good. That just sounds like fun. So Holly Rose says, hello all. Hey, Holly. Awesome to see you. Caroline says, good evening, dear friends. Great to see you. Lisa, Ben, Peter, Amy. As always, fabulous to see you as well. Hoping everything's going super great, no matter where you are and no matter where anybody else is. And for anyone who's watching, and if you haven't watched this before, just so you know, if you have any kind of questions or comments, just go ahead and toss it into the comments section. And what happens is I just repeat the question, and then we all take turns in responding to it. And we actually do respond, I'd say, to 90% of the questions, unless it's just something super like, what is this person talking about? then probably not. But that really doesn't happen very often. No, not at all. So we've got the Kickstarter going, and we have the new open call for the short stories based on the Cures world. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and we did do our acquisition review of all of the backlog of fiction and nonfiction stories, full length. So if you had something in with us and you were wondering like, hey, what's going on with it, you should have gotten a response from us in the last like 2 weeks. Just letting you know if we've accepted it or not. If it's something that if we didn't accept it, and we'd love to see it if you do a revision of some sort. We provided that feedback, just so you know. If it's something where it just wouldn't really fit with our catalogs, we let you know that as well. So we try to be pretty transparent. Caroline says, all's well here. What is coming up for the 4 of you this week? I don't know. Peter, can you hear me? It seems like you're having technical issues, but I could be wrong.
I can hear everybody just fine. That's working. The problem is I have to turn my camera off so that it doesn't freeze up the stream.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, so if the camera's on, it just hogs up too much memory. So I just need a new computer.
Got it.
It's like an oracle. It's like listening to an oracle now. The white globe moves when you speak.
Ah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is cool. So what are you up to, Peter? What's on your plate for this upcoming week?
Get to put all my books away. Finally got the bookcases built for my studio. I don't know if you saw them before, but got 4 bookcases. I got books in boxes all over the place. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to getting those organized and getting back to reading and editing. It's really been slow down with the kitchen project and everything else that's been going on. It's finally coming to an end. So I have some more time on my hands and less to think about, less to focus on. So I'm psyched.
Nice. That's awesome. How about you, Amy? What are you up to? What's in your coming up in the next week or two?
So this week I have been so far going through like a very creepy kind of story and making pretty heavy edits with the author. And a lot of, and I get this all the time, like, what do you look for when you first go through, a manuscript? So I've kind of been, leading her through like, hey, you said this over here, but then over, 20 pages later, this is kind of happening. Can you connect that better? And I, just send it back. And we've just been going back and forth and having some really good conversations. We looked up a lot of Victorian, like, flower language. So all of the flowers had some kind of secret meaning behind them. So we've been looking up meanings of flowers, Victorian speak, which I never thought I'd be doing, but it was pretty cool. And then after this, I have 2 more manuscripts they're ready to be looked at. And I don't know, I just have so many great authors that I'm working with right now. They're very, expeditious and making all these edits, and they've been so great with adding things and I don't know, just playing with language and trying to make these stories the best possible. So yeah, I've got a lot on my plate, but a lot of good things, I would say.
Oh, fabulous. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Ben? What are you up to?
Hey, I was 4 minutes late today because I got an email from an author who one of our authors who did Far Out. It's to be published. It's forthcoming, but he sent me I haven't had a chance to look at it yet because I didn't want to be 6 minutes late. But he sent me a teaser for the book, like a trailer / teaser that he developed and videoed. So I'll take a look at that. It's a great idea for marketing, and so that's forthcoming. It's a good story about a Hollywood actress who is in a car wreck and gets a head injury, and she takes over the role of the last script she read. And so that's a great start. But also this week, wrapping up on How We Were Before. That will be sent over to production. The author's gone through it and is ready to release it into production. Another one is Rue St. Catherine, Stories of Rue St. Catherine's. I'm going to mess up the title now. Hang on, everyone. I know. Number 12, Rue St. Catherine. And so that one is we've gone through it. The author actually went through and tweaked it far past my expectations. She had some things that she wanted to change. Roberta Gates wanted to change and tighten up and polish. It didn't necessarily need it, but for her own satisfaction, she went through and polished even more than I expected her to, which is good because I always tell the authors, I'm not satisfied until you are. And if you're not satisfied, we will not send it to production. It's better to get it right than rushed. So those are the things that are pending. And I have started the novel that is initiating a short story anthology.
It's so funny. I can't even remember. I keep forgetting what we call what's the follow-up called again? And I read the damn thing, so that's just sad. I just keep calling it Cure
Calling is a
2.
working title, but you told me to think of other things.
Oh yeah, because I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, The Calling. Yep.
Yeah.
Because thought it
To
fit with
answer
Cure.
Caroline's question, hers will be next after the Cure or after Cure, and
Mhm.
then Store Stories are still pending. But that reminds me, we've got the Rise Anthology 1. The
Mm.
release date is set for May 2024.
Woo woo!
I know.
Super exciting. That's awesome. Yeah, and we've already gotten a bunch of new short stories to consider for future versions, so that's awesome too. Um, I'm just waiting. Well, I'm waiting for Ben to finish his revision or his feedback on the calling, and then I have been working on getting offers out to authors. Again, as I mentioned, you should have gotten an offer out by now if we were going to give you one. And if you're waiting for something from me, do me a favor, just send me a follow-up email. I've just had so much on my plate that sometimes I might forget if there was something, some kind of follow-up, and that the follow-up didn't happen by somebody. So anyway, yeah, just let me know. It's not a big deal. I'm more than happy to follow up with you guys. And we launched the Kickstarter campaign. We launched the short story anthology based on the calling / Cure, and we are also going to, because I was reminded by Jonathan Mayberry that he and I are going to be co-editing an anthology of literary magical realism short stories. So I'm going to be meeting with him later this week / next week to talk about, all right, time to make it happen. And he's actually already gone around to some really amazing authors and gotten their buy-in to write stories for this. So it promises to be a pretty fabulous anthology. I'm really looking forward to it. I also finished an essay that at one point I thought, good Lord, I don't think I'm ever going to finish this thing. So it was an essay about the circle, also known as Lovecraft's Circle, and the circle was a, a large number of pen pals, in essence, that Lovecraft had, of different authors they were all basically fans of one another's writing, and they kind of launched each other's careers. And this includes the gentleman who created Conan the Barbarian, and who, in essence, also, he created a whole subgenre, as had several others. So I drafted it for Weird Tales, because the other thing that these gentlemen had in common is that they were all published in Weird Tales, if not once, actually, in most cases, multiple times. So it's actually a really fun essay, and it's a great representation, and it's a great demonstration of, when you really support one another as a community, what you can do together, which is pretty fantastic. And I still owe what I call a 2-pager. So a 2-pager is like a bullet point of, like, here are the key elements of a business plan. And I'll be honest, after all the other editing and revisions I've been doing and writing of essays and all the other stuff, when I sat down to do it, man, my brain went boo. So I could completely see myself using Chat AI as a launching point to really kind of get that going, because it's hilarious. When I was talking through it with the lovely individual who said she would be more than happy to review it, to make, to like dummy proof it basically and give me great feedback. Um, my mind was full of answers. It was like, yes, I know exactly what the answer is to this. Bing, 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 bing. And then when I sat down to do it, it was like, nope, forget it. I don't care what you thought. So I've got a pretty big plate. And later this month, I get to have all the shower stalls in my house replaced, because they're all pretty old and really kind of nasty looking. So I'm really looking forward to having that done. I'm not looking forward to the bill when it is done, but I am looking forward to having it done. So that's it's not everything, but that's a whole lot of oh, and if for those of you who may not have seen it, myself and Jonathan Mayberry, which is how he was able to bring up the whole, hey, we're going to be doing this anthology thing. We both spoke at BookFest. So BookFest, for those of you who may not be familiar, is an online 2-day conference. The first day is focused on readers, and the second day is focused on writers. And so he and I basically interviewed each other. We chatted. I've known that poor man for like 20, almost 25 years. I don't know how he stayed sane knowing me that long, but actually, technically, I can't claim that he has stayed sane knowing me that long. I can just claim that he's still alive. So, but anyway, it was a really, really, really cool interview. We tend to get very honest when we get together, like very transparent. So, we've already gotten a lot of great feedback. I'm actually looking for the link to it right now to share it. I think if you guys, you might get it. If you haven't watched it, you might get a lot of benefit out of it. I actually had one person tell me he watched it 6 times already because every time he watched it, he got something new out of it, which is kind of amazing. And to think I hadn't had all my coffee yet when we were having that conversation, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, definitely, like I said, if you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. I am pulling it up now. And the book fest in general is actually just a really, really, really cool, completely free festival for readers and writers. And I think you're probably going to see myself and possibly several others from Running Wild and RIZE at BookFest again, because it's just a very positive conference. I'm also going to be at several conferences and workshops so far through September. So yeah, if you guys want, oh, I need to post it actually on my website, but if I haven't already, but they're all great opportunities to kind of come out and see other people and and learn. We all get to learn from one another and network and have a glass of wine or whatever. So. Teja says, do authors approach you or you approach authors? Yes. I literally today approached Ben about writing a short story for the anthology that I just mentioned, because I know that from he and I brainstorming, I knew that he had some ideas of some cool stuff that could happen. And I also approached a couple of other authors. Originally, honestly, it was just more around, is this a good idea? And and then they came forward with some different concepts for the anthology. So I was like, dude, you need to submit it. It would be great. We've also had instances when people submitted to us short stories or novellas, and we turned around and said, this would make an amazing novel. You should totally use this as a launching point. And then, of course, we have Submittable, right, where people send us stuff. We actually lately have been getting a lot of submissions. Like, people have been emailing me, meaning editors, or not editors, agents have been emailing me uh, uh, different works from people they represent, which is fine. Because what happens is, if it's something that wouldn't really be a good fit for us, I can just let you know that up front. But if it is something that I think we would consider, then I point them to Submittable. So yeah, I think it's pretty much everything. I don't know. How about you guys, Ben, Amy, Peter? What's been your experience so far in terms of getting new stories in?
Personally, I approached Rudolfo Sarna. He wrote this Obsidian Waste for us.
Mhm.
And I don't think that novel would have gotten out of his the shoebox or wherever he kept it. But with a little encouragement, I said, well, send me a first chapter and let me look at it. And he did, and it was so different that I liked it. But that leads to a transparency issue. If I think if any of us approach a writer that we know and they submit something to us, we will not be the final voice. It's I know this writer, so I want to make sure that other people who don't know his writing will take a look at it and say, do we want to accept it? And so there's that aspect of it. Because I've got another one, the NFG novel that is still lingering out there, and but that was someone else that I knew, another writer that I knew, and and I knew his work, but I did not want to be the one to say yes, we've got to publish this, because that looks like the personal relationship kicked in, and when it shouldn't, when it should not. It should be about the book.
Amy, how about you? Oh, actually, no, Peter, what about you? What's been your experience?
I agree with Ben in terms of finding authors to work with. I'm pretty much a fan of this submittable slush pile that we get, because I can pick up book after book after book and just edit as much as I can, just because I love the different voices, the different characters, and different plots. So I'm not so much a solicitor as I am a find them in the slush pile kind of thing.
How about you, Amy?
Yeah, so I mean, same thing as I might have authors that I know, and maybe because I have like a local writing group that I'm a part of, and sometimes like I'm kind of pushing like, hey, you should submit this to a few places. Sometimes it's Running Wild, but then sometimes it's other places as well. Most of our stuff, though, I would say, just comes from Submittable, and just encouraging authors, get your work out there. Like Ben said, don't hide it in a desk somewhere. It's not doing anything there. So you never know unless you put it out there. And we're all, really easy to work with as editors, trying to get your story exactly where you want it and where the story is supposed to go. So it's kind of my call for you guys who are listening. Submit your stuff. We'd love to read it.
Yeah, definitely. And for those anyone I know or anyone watching this who knows me, if I haven't approached you, there's no reason for it. And what I mean by that is, I want you to be happy. And a lot of authors, your dream is to be published by a Penguin or by a St. Martin's or by a Random House. And I want you to pursue that, and I want you to find happiness in that, right? So I'd rather you pursue whatever your dream is, before going down to the small and mid-size and micro presses, because you'll regret it. You'll always feel like, well, what if I would have actually done X, Y, or Z? So I that is the only reason I do not approach people who have not already submitted to us. If you have already submitted to us and we read something, or you've submitted a novella or a short story to us, and we read it, and I keep saying we because I don't make decisions on my own, which also, that just sounded horrid, but we always make these decisions as a team. It doesn't mean I don't have an opinion. It just means that I like to make sure that everybody on our leadership team has an opportunity to let us, to put in 2 cents, because there might be something fabulous about a story that I haven't recognized. And there might be something that needs a lot of work that I didn't realize, right? And the same for everybody else who's part of that acquisition meeting. So again, if you're someone who knows me and I have not approached you about sending us a story, that's why. You're always, 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 always welcome to send us stories. Just go to our submittable page and submit it in whichever category is appropriate. Now, after saying all that, I've also gotten a lot of feedback where people are like, I can't find where to submit my story. We actually have closed the submission form for Running Wild's full-length novels, just because we've already acquired so many stories that we need to get caught up first before we start going back and getting any new ones. So again, it's nothing. There's no personal thing going on at all. It's just simply like we're just trying to get caught up. So I hope that blathering just made sense. Let's see. Caroline says, I've got a lot in a desk, guys. I will need some feedback at a point as to what you think before I make changes. After we finish with Terror, Ben, we need to talk. Ben, sounds like you just got volunteered, my man.
That's good.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else major going on. I mean, that was a lot. We just rattled off a whole lot, in all honesty. Oh, we just launched a brand new website. So guys, go check it out. Let me put a link to that website in the chat. And we've already let you know that we have a brand new acquisition, well, semi brand new-ish acquisition editor, Cody Cisco, who is the head acquisition editor for RIZE. He's actually been our team for a while. We just did the announcement most recently. Brand new logo, brand new branding. I hope you guys like it. We actually have to update the branding on this to reflect the most recent branding. So we'll make that happen. But you'll see the new branding and logos on our website. I think it's already on our submittable page. It's definitely on our Facebook. I believe it's on Twitter. So hopefully you'll find it wherever you find us. So, Tejas says, congratulations on the website. Thank you so much. And Dawn McIntyre says, I like the new logo. Good job. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's it's fun. And it's funny because when we were looking at new logos, my big thing was, look, I don't want us to keep redoing logos. We've had enough redos. Let's just, make a decision and stick with it for, I'd prefer forever. But that's just because I think more along the lines of like an Apple, where you come up with a brand that really kind of sticks with people, and then you stick with that branding. So hopefully that's what we'll get with this latest logo. So cool. All right. Well, I'm shocked. We're already more than halfway through our hour. For anyone who's watching, again, we are Running Wild and RIZE editors. We are here with you on Thursdays between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time. And we get little visitors. Like mine is a cat. Her name is Margarita. Amy gets her son.
My son Ezra. Yep.
Yeah, why not?
He loves to make appearances. Yep.
We love it when he makes an appearance. It's fabulous. Yeah. But if you have any kind of questions for us or for Ezra or for Margarita, my cat, that is fantastic. Go ahead and pop those questions into the comments section. I repeat the question, and then we take turns going through and talking about them. So with that, I don't know, Ben, Amy, Peter, is there anything that you guys want to talk about or any questions that you have for the rest of us?
I just finished up that number 12 Rue St. Catherine's. That's what it is. And of course it's set in World War II France. And it was interesting to have the discussions with the author about how to make sure that the foreign language that she was using gets translated, and how it needs to be consistent in the way it gets translated. Because she was thinking about sometimes putting it in parentheses of what it would have translated to. And I really kind of talked her out of that one, because I'd rather just see an M dash and then restate it in English for the English readers. And so it was an interesting conversation, and good for me as an editor to see that work is out there, and how to handle it and how to make it best for the reader.
Actually, so that it's interesting. I want to bring up, I have 2 pet peeves I'm going to bring up, just because it's happened a couple times in the last 2 weeks. And I'm like, is this just like a theme or something? So one is, I've had a couple of authors. We agree that the book is final. We agree that the manuscript is final. I mark it as final. And then like a couple weeks later or a week later, I get a, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, here's a complete revision. Okay, for real. That's not as awful when, if it hasn't actually gone to the production team yet, but it is, to be blunt, it's not a waste of time. It's great that you're thorough, but don't agree that something's done if you don't really think it's done, because that is a waste of my time. It means now I am going to have to, because in my head, this is done. It's marked final. It's set aside. And I may have already sent it to the production team, right? But now I get to go through it again, and I've already got a list of like 20 other manuscripts that I should be looking at. So, I'm not in the mental space to go over this again. That's one. Please, when you do something like that, please make sure you've actually marked it and you didn't just make the revisions without marking the version. Because I didn't memorize your last manuscript. I know that's shocking, like what? But I didn't. And so there's no way in hell I'm going to remember what the changes were. And don't just itemize it in an email and say, see, here's the itemized list of everything. You just spent a whole lot of time to create a list of an itemized list that I am not going to look at. Because again, I don't have the time to keep going back to an email and then going to the version the new version you just created to see what did you do, and pull up the old version that you decided to revise. This is not healthy. So that's one. And then the other one was one of the novellas. Actually, I guess I have 3 pet peeves. I've had a couple of books recently where authors are just flat out quoting movies and songs that are not, they're not, what's it called? Like open use, right? Like, and they didn't bother to get approval from whoever owns the copyright to that. So, don't do that, because that means now you are going to have to go back. You as the author, your publisher's not going to do this for you. You need to do this. You need to go out and get approval to use, to quote this material. And if you don't, then you're going to have to either take it out, or you're going to have to like completely revise it so it's not an actual quote. And it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your publisher's time. It's a waste of your editor's time. And then my third pet peeve is, if you are working with your editor and they give you feedback on, like, thematically you have something that you need to change within that manuscript, don't just make some random changes in a different document. Don't make the changes to the original manuscript and then hand it off to your editor and then say, here you go, because your editor is going to sit there and go, I have no idea what I'm looking at. The original submission was like 100 pages long, and what you just sent me is 4 pages long. What am I supposed to do with this? There is nothing in this, in any of the things I just described, that is healthy, that is productive, that is effective. You know, you really, really, really want to, this is supposed to be a collaboration, not a I'm pissed off because I got a bunch of editing advice from my editor, so now I'm going to make life hard. No, no, no. Not healthy, not smart, and it's not going to get you anywhere. So that's my rant for for this Thursday. I don't know, Peter, Ben, Amy, have you guys had any kind of challenging situations that you could give authors advice on, like better ways to approach it?
Yeah,
I think. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
No, Amy, you start.
Okay. I think the biggest piece of advice that I would say is like, it's going to change, and that's okay. You know, your work, it was accepted for a reason, and there's probably a whole list of reasons, not just one, right? There's some beautiful things in it, but you know, in order to serve the work and get it where it needs to go, there are going to be some things that you add, some things that you take away. You might even have ideas to add or take away things. But yeah, it's kind of like separating the work and the ego, right? We want this book out in the world, and so we've spent all this time in it. But if we take a step back and realize, hey, this piece isn't really about, you know, me, the author. It's about the piece itself. I think that's the biggest piece of advice that I could give someone is, you know, it's not, when we give edits, it's not saying you are a bad writer. No, we're saying we love what you're doing and we really want it to shine. And, you know, here are some ways, here are some things that we're noticing. Go back in and really be objective. Again, separate your ego and your art and really think about, well, what does the story need? If it's lacking in these places, what can you add to it? Because you've already made a great story. That's why it's accepted. So what can you do to really, you know, make that piece, you know, relatable and touch other, you know, other readers who might not have kind of gotten all of the things from your work if you wouldn't have made those changes. So yeah, just kind of be open. And yeah, that's the biggest thing that I see is sometimes authors just say, oh, I have to make all these changes, and then they feel like we're attacking them. But it's really about just making that piece shine. It really is.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think that the separation of the ego from the art is one of the biggest steps any author can take, just because we are looking to improve the work. And as we've all been saying, that we're looking to make the book the best it can be. We're not criticizing the author. We're not picking anything apart. We just see something that you can identify, that we can identify, and you can clarify or expand upon or reduce depending on the situation. That's always cool. My biggest pet peeve is the editing process. When you go through and edit a manuscript and they come back with the next version, and you give them again. So by the time we get to the final version, they come back with the 6th version and then a 7th version, like you were saying. It's like once it's done, it's done. And by that time, I moved on to the next novel. So I can't exactly go back and change anything because I'm not in that world anymore. So I'm basically echoing what Lisa and Amy have said.
Good points. How about you, Ben?
One thing that it happened a couple of novels ago. I was editing what was unsubmittable, and the author came back and said, "Oh, I emailed Lisa another version. You're in the wrong one." Oh, great! And but the solution was to take a look at, do the comparison in Google Docs. It kind of helped me out, but there was still some doubt of did everything I caught already get caught again, and to make sure it was polished. And then most recently a section came in after the fact, but it wasn't that much of a, because it was a collection of short stories, so it wasn't that big a deal because we could just put that story in where it needed to go in the manuscript, and then edit it separately because everything was done. And the author said, "Oh yeah, by the way, I've got one more story that really should go in between these two because it makes a lot of sense and I like it." And I said, okay, let's put it in there. But that one was not as bad as the feeling of now I've got 2 manuscripts that I need to compare to make sure the updates are right and not redundant or not missing anything.
Yeah, and just to I get a lot of messages from people saying, I want to just email you directly. And, you know, there's a reason I keep saying, no, you need to do this through Submittable, because I know that I'm like the face of Running Wild and RIZE, but the reality is that we're all a team and we all work together. And so to make sure that the editors actually get the latest version and the latest like email exchange with the latest information, is the best way to do it is through Submittable, because like all of the acquisition editors and actually all the editors have access to it, and they can just go in and see like what happened and what's going on, and was there a new version that was submitted before they actually start working together. Because if you email me directly, I will make you a bet it's going to get lost in my email if by some vast miracle I actually, unless by some vast miracle, I remember to forward it along to whoever that editor is, as long as that editor has already been identified. So that's a great point, Ben.
That's the other side. The other side of it is the editor has been identified, and you've introduced us to the writer. So I think it's if there's some changes, send it to the editor. You know who they are. You have their email. You've probably heard from them and said, "Yeah, I'll get to it in April, Caroline, in April." And so it's just a matter of connecting those two to make sure that the latest version is being discussed anyway.
Yep. Yeah, great
It
point.
takes you out of the middle. Like that's the plan of introducing the author to the editor anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, once you guys meet, you don't need me. There's a reason these editors are here. They know their shit. They don't need me. So, I mean, definitely like pull them in, man. Engage your editor, because they are fabulous people. They're fabulous editors. They know their thing, right? Really
And
collaborate
it's
with
really
them.
easy to work with too. More excited, more exuberant they are about their revisions and their drafts, I think.
Yeah, exactly. We actually got a couple new questions. Let's see. Oh, Don McIntyre says, how often do you give up on a book and stop reading it? Meaning those you read for pleasure, not manuscripts. I don't know. I rarely do. It takes a lot. Like it's got to be really like I just don't get it. So, yeah. What were you gonna say, Ben?
This it happens. After I saw the movie, I put down where the crawdads sing. So, that's how it ends.
Okay,
So I stopped that one. But there's some that it comes down to a good story that draws you in, and it's the same as a manuscript. Really, it's what you like about the manuscript is what you like about a novel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I tend to go as far into it as I possibly can before I give up on the work, because it's so much time and effort has gone into the work, the writing of it. But there are times when I've gotten to page 70, page 100, page 150 and go, I can't do it anymore. It's just not there for me. I'm not seeing things. I'm finding reasons not to read it as opposed to reasons to read it. So on those rare occasions, I'll put it down and move on to the next book.
Yeah, I have to say I'm like a stickler. Like if I start it, I usually finish it. But it's those critical like first 10 pages, I think, that it's like, am I gonna like this? And if I get past the first 10 pages, I'll usually finish it. So
that's actually the criteria that I use when deciding which manuscripts to recommend for the press is, can I get past page 10 and still be interested? Have I made it to page 11, or have I been looking at the page numbers going, when is something going to start happening?
Yep.
Page 11 before thinking about it, and I'm really enjoying the book, and I skip through it in different places to see if the writing is consistent and see if the author's maintained his or her voice.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I do the same thing. If I can't get past page believe it or not, for me, it's actually usually if I can't get through page 5,
Yep.
then most likely I'm not going to recommend it. I may acknowledge if someone's a good writer, but they just may not know how to write a story yet, and that's okay, right? That's something. They're both skills that you need to learn. So, yeah. Ben, were you gonna say something?
Oh, I was thinking about the Milagro Beanfield War by John Nichols. It's actually the first book of a trilogy, and I struggled to get through the Beanfield War and decided not to continue. I've got the other two, but it just didn't draw me back in because it's so wordy and dense. It's like Thomas Wolfe could have been. He should have been hacked out another 10,000 words for look Homeward Angel. But,
oh wow.
Yeah, but it's so sometimes it's just it reminds me that the power of a good editor and to get it down to the core of what needs to be there and to tell the story. And there's some great writing, like Lisa just said. There's some great writing, but does it fit the story? Does it fit the narrative? Does it draw the reader in? And there have been books where I put them down because I wasn't drawn in. And everybody says Catch-22 is difficult to get into, but I was just the opposite. I was hooked on page 1, the first chapter there. But so I'm weird. Like you didn't know.
Oh, stop.
We're shocked. No.
Yeah, right. I honestly, we're all weird. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Let's just face that. So, Caroline asks, so what is everybody doing for Easter or Passover? I'm dog sitting, and I'm actually really happy. I'm planning on just getting takeout, a bottle of wine, and, as I mentioned, I still have a bunch of manuscripts I'm going through, and I'm going to be dog sitting for a dear friend of mine. So, which I know that sounds terribly like, what is she talking about? But that's my holiday weekend. So how about you guys?
I'm going to hide Easter edits.
What's that, Ben?
I'm going to hide Easter edits.
We're just my wife and I just gonna go to a brunch at a nice restaurant downtown, and then just chill out, be together, and just hang out for the afternoon. Got a great dinner planned, so looking forward to Sunday.
That sounds lovely. How about you, Amy?
We're probably going to do something around the house here. We have soccer games on Saturday, so we're probably going to do stuff around, just kind of relax on Sunday. So we'll see.
Cool. Teja says, how do you identify a good editor? Actually, I'm going to ask Peter, Ben, and Amy to answer that first, and then I'll chime in. So, Peter, how do you identify a good editor?
What I consider a good editor is someone who doesn't try to impose their will upon others' words. Like that, you should have said it this way, you should use these words. The process is organic, and it needs to be within the author's realm and in their world, in their words, in their worlds. So when I'm editing a book, I don't look for things that can change. I look for things that can improve. And I think not so. Some editors will look to force it into a hole or into a channel that it doesn't want to go into. So that type of overbearingness turned me off for editing, because I think that just not the right thing to do for an author. It's not fair.
Yeah, that's great. Totally agree. How about you, Amy? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And I think being a good editor is also someone who understands like the strengths and weaknesses of a certain author. So if they understand how to work a scene really well, they can just put in a comment and say, can you add more tension here or something like that? And they'll know that author will know, ooh, maybe some more back and forth. Maybe I can add some descriptions in there. Some authors are really good at, other things, and they might need a little more like, hey, can you, add some back and forth where there's some tension? Hey, can you add a little bit more climax? Like maybe this happens, maybe that, just kind of give them ideas. But like Peter was saying, yeah, you don't want someone who's going to go in and like strike out all of your words and put all of theirs in. That's not the role of an editor. And I just watched that Toni Morrison documentary. I think it's called Pieces I Am or something like that. And she was an editor for a very long time. And she said that was one of the things that she looked for in some of the junior editors that she would bring in, is people who would suggest like, hey, I see this part of your manuscript. I really like it. Over here, though, you kind of drop off. Can you add some of that, over here? But yeah, she was very adamant about, you don't change the character of the words, right? You're just looking to improve that work.
How about you, Ben?
Yeah, I was thinking of well, again, it's a Thomas Wolfe reference, but there's a movie called Genius about when Thomas Wolfe brings Look Homeward Angel in to Max Perkins, and it's in a box with thousands and thousands of pages, and said, "Here it is." And Max Perkins, who is a very well respected editor, fell back and started with the relationship with the author. And I think that's key. And to let the author know, I'm not looking like Peter and Amy just said, I'm not looking at putting my words in there. I'm looking at polishing it. So, and I'm doing that from the perspective of a reader, because if you lose me as a reader now, then think about that reader and, going into the did not finish pile later, which is where you don't want it. So let's have that discussion. But I think it's very rewarding to have the relationship with the authors, and to have those discussions, and in a serious way, but also in a relationship way. Whether it's this is for the sake of the art. So I would look for someone that you have a relationship with, because. And Lisa knows this. I started editing a book that the author was not going to listen to anything I said, and so I gave it up and said, that's fine. We don't have the relationship that we need to make it work. So let's not force it to work, because it's not going to.
Yeah, I agree with everything Peter, Amy, and Ben have said, and just to give you a little bit of insight, everybody gets a test, right? Everybody on this call, everyone on this video's gone through an editing test, and it's to see the approach. And we've had people who they would make brilliant, like if you wanted someone to come in and act as a ghostwriter, they would be brilliant in that capacity, because they were basically rewriting the story in their own voice. And a lot of times individuals who they take that approach, they don't realize that's what they're doing, right? Because this is how instructors have treated their work. This is how they have been taught to revise, right? And so it can be very difficult to explain to them, hey, what you're doing, it's interesting and it's great. It's not wrong, but it's not right for that author. And unless you've had, I believe, unless you have had mentors and editors who do have the more open approach, where really this is about your story, you, the author, and making your story the best it can be. And that takes a very deep knowledge of narrative. It takes a very deep knowledge and understanding of craft. It takes a huge open mind, right? Because to everything everyone said, it's all about that relationship with the author, and wanting to understand and wanting to strengthen the story that author is bringing forward. But it's also that author being able to hear it when someone says, hey, here are some areas within the narrative that are weaker, and we could really strengthen what were you trying? What was your intent with this section, right? And when an editor asks questions like that, it is to help you, the author, really, really get this story to shine. So shockingly, we are actually out of time. I want to thank absolutely everybody who's joined us. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Teha. Thank you to Dawn and to Rose and Cree. It's fabulous seeing you guys. If you are joining and you're watching the pre-recorded session, all good guys, it is always fabulous to have you with us. If you've got a question, feel free to pop it into the comments section. We always go back and check. And you're also always welcome to join us here on Thursdays between 5 and 6 p.m. Pacific time or 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern time. So with that, going to wish you guys a fabulous, fabulous week, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao.